fathers who do not get to see their children, in divorces and things. Good dads that for conflict with their ex-wives, they aren't able to see their kids. He advocates for them, and he has a good following, and has goes across the country lobbying and advocating for that cause. Um, he and Patrick teamed up to help try to raise funds to get the Whittakers a house, and they have been doing some. They contacted the Amish community to have them to see if they would take on the project of building the house and be in charge of all monies that were donated for the construction of the house. And the Amish had just agreed, and they're backing up about two steps. There have been some issues with BJ being there right in the little camper next door, and with all the accusations of abuse and drug and addiction. Uh, Betty had asked, did not want BJ there, said she was afraid of her. So they went to court to get an eviction, to have her evicted from the property, and also a protection order. And that was granted for 10 days, and BJ had to leave the property. Well, it so happens that Larry, her father, was not very cooperative. And bottom line short, there was some confusion about the court date to extend the protection order, and some speculation that Miss Betty may have went and canceled the order. And Eric was very disappointed. He felt like that it, he had just been slapped in the face. And as of today, I don't think anyone has heard from Eric in about 18 hours. He's not made any posts online. But Timmy is with Patrick, and he has posted several things, doing things with Timmy today. So that is sort of like a really quick update with a lot of things I probably missed.
Jennifer says this lady is doing a great job explaining the Whittaker story. And there was one other one here to start with. Let's see. Um, Now, where did it go? Funky says everyone hit the like and subscribe button. Betty says, hello to everyone I didn't get to say hi to. Are you coming up at all tonight, Betty? And
Daddy, please come up.
Lighthouse Girl says, I'm sub to those two, but haven't been to them in a while. Jennifer did have a different name. Let's see. We've got a lot of new names in here tonight.
Yeah.
Lighthouse Ministries Outreach says, hello, Funky, new here. Hello to you. And I had one I was going to read. I don't see it right now. Get back over here. Oh, here we go. Kelly Owen says the house is not on their land, but they do have 17 plus acres across the street, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. To the best of my knowledge, they do have 17 acres of really nice land. And I think that's where Betty had mentioned to Eric that she would like to build a house somewhere on that 17 acres. But the house that they live in now is not their house. It is actually owned by a LLC, sort of a holding company. And I think it was purchased by that company because there was a delinquency with the property tax. And I'm not sure if they pay rent for the house or if they just sort of stay there and they let them stay there. But they do not own that house that they live in now.
And do you have any kind of a recap of BJ being there with the property and the court stuff going on?
Uh, well, it's just like I said, she had been asked to leave. There was an eviction order for her to leave the property, and also a protection order that was granted for 10 days. And Eric was under the assumption that the court date was going to be this coming Thursday. And that was the reason he extended his stay in West Virginia, was to be able to accompany Betty to court and act as her advocate. But on the 4th, I believe that was the date, Eric went over to the Whittakers to collect Betty because they were supposed to go um, to the lawyer's office to set up a trust fund where all the donations for the Whittakers, not for the house, but just for the Whittakers, were supposed to be deposited so that there would be money in the future to take care of their needs and, to help upkeep the house and so forth. And that trust fund was supposed to be have trustees, several trustees, so it would ensure that the money could not be, you know, given to family members that didn't need it. It would only go for the appropriate reasons that it was donated for. So when he went to pick up Betty for this appointment, and they were also that day supposed to go to APS and sign some paperwork so that Betty could get services into the home for Ray and Lorraine, like home health services, someone to help bathe them, and provide some needed care. Well, she wasn't there when Eric arrived at the house, and Larry said that she had gone to town with Brandon, who is BJ's son, and it would be Larry's grandson, to get some dog food. Well, Eric waited for a while, and he went to the post office to set up a post office box where small donations could be sent to the Whittakers. He finally returned to the Whittaker residence, and Betty was still not there. And Larry was saying something to him about, we saw that you want to take Lorraine and Ray and Timmy out of the family, and we saw somebody said you posted it on Facebook, blah blah blah. And Betty came back during that time, and so they had missed the lawyer's appointment. And I'm trying to think of what happened that day. That was when I think that Eric was a little disappointed, in that day that, Betty didn't come, and that she had gone, they found out she had gone with Brandon. He had taken her out and was going to show her things on Facebook to prove to her that Eric was posting that they wanted to break up the family. That was not true. I have not seen anything that Eric posted about wanting to, break that family up. So he was not feeling good about it that day. He said he just really felt like throwing his hands up and coming home, but he stayed. Okay. He went a few days later to see the Amish. And the Amish, they approved that they would take on doing the house, and they were going to take it to their council and pray on it. And they would set up a committee, and all the donations for the house would be sent directly to the Amish committee, and they would oversee that money to make sure that there was money there for building that house. And they had gone to get permits, and everything seemed to be, going pretty well. And then Eric goes over to the Whittakers after he returns from visiting the Amish, and he walks up. As he's walking up to the house, he sees BJ in that camper, and she is not supposed to be there according to the protective order. And when he goes up on the porch and he confronts Larry and Betty about who's in the camper, they lie to him. And he says, I see who's there, and they continue for a little bit lying to him. And so he finds out that so he said he calls 911. He said, we have to call 911 because she's not supposed to be here. It's in violation of the protective order. So they call 911, and Eric has to get Betty on the phone because Betty is the person whose name that the protection order is in. So she takes the phone, and then she goes into the house, and then a few minutes later she comes back out, and she says, here, they want to talk to you. And he kind of stops filming at that point, and he comes back on a little bit later, and he says it was I guess the sheriff's department that she called, or whoever, and they told him that the protective order had been canceled and that they had missed the court date. And Eric swears, the court date was in 10 days, like for next week. But evidently the court date was on the 4th, and that was the day that Betty went with Brandon to town. So there's a lot of confusion about how that protective order actually got canceled because Betty is the only person who could have canceled it. And if they knew the court date had been changed, or if the court date was initially scheduled for the 4th, and Eric didn't know and wasn't aware of that, they missed it intentionally. So not really sure what the real story is about that. But Eric was just heartbroken at that time, pretty much saying, I cannot do this if they're going to protect someone. I don't think it's so much BJ's drug addiction or to, for his reasoning. His reasoning was that anyone who is going to physically abuse these people in this house and be violent with them and bring people around who would beat on them over protecting those three people, then he will have nothing to do with building that house. And I think he pretty much left it at that. And he had to take his friends who had come to help him. One of them was a former Amish man who helped him approach the Amish community, and another guy was one of his friends that he's traveled with as a cameraman. And they came here, and he had to take them back to the airport. And he went live, I think, after he dropped them off, and that's been about like a day ago. And I can't find where he's posted anything on social media. And I think he's just kind of went dark since then. Um, that's a long, long answer, but that explains that situation, I think.
Annette says, how difficult would it be to legally for someone, a responsible outsider, to get guardianship of Ray, Lorraine, and Timmy?
I,
And
yeah, I don't really know. I guess they could petition the court, but um, I have no idea.
Big Dog Gaming says, it's so sad. I hope Eric don't give up. It's so beautiful what him and Patrick both are doing. I think Larry has a lot to do with what happens there, and Betty is too scared to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think Betty's caught in the middle. I do. I think she's been caught in the middle for years, and I think that they, other family members. I think they bug her for money all the time, and I think that she just tries to keep things peaceful and probably gives them a lot of her money. And it's easier just to go along with whatever anybody's saying than to have a lot of problems. And I think Betty is going to agree with whoever she's with at the time. And that she did lie. She did lie to Eric, and she lied to Mark Lyotta when he asked her the day, is Larry dead, and she said yes he is, and Larry wasn't dead. Uh, so Betty will lie, and but she did has but when she gets by herself, like with Eric and Patrick, she will tell them, you know, Larry was on her continuously over taking the protective order on BJ. And so I imagine Larry gave her a really, really hard time. And she depends on Larry just somewhat because he's the only one that can drive. And what little help that he gives the family. And, blood's thicker than water, according to a lot of people feel that way. And they have always been together. They love each other, but she she did lie to Eric.
Kelly Owens says Larry was caught on camera stealing gas from Patrick when Patrick was in the hospital. That is 100% fact.
Yes, it is. Patrick recorded it on his ring. What is it? Doorbell thing, the ring recorder. Yes, that there's a video that was up about that. And Patrick was that he had told Larry he would not put that on social media. He would not let that out as long as he, you know, supported Betty with getting that protection order and keeping BJ away from there. And Larry, I don't think he wasn't very supportive, and Patrick picked up on that. And so Patrick posted the video.
Let's Talk Cray Cray says no, that day he went to drop Timmy off to see his mom. That APS visit was 2 days before. And Annette says if APS saw the condition of the home, they would need to take custody of all three the most vulnerable family members because the house is a health hazard.
I agree with that, but that's probably not their first rodeo with APS. APS, I'm sure, knows all about the Whittaker family. They've been there for years, and I'm sure that's not their first visit because they know that there is special needs, people in that family, and Timmy's there as well. So APS knows about the family. I'm sure that when Timmy was little, APS, did know about him. Um, I'm not sure why why they have let them remain in that house because that house, it there's no special needs person should have to live in that type of conditions. I think if Larry and Betty want to live that way, more power to them. But Lorraine and Ray and Timmy deserve something better. They don't have a say in it, and that the conditions in that house are horrendous.
Let's Talk Cray Cray says he was there to drop Timmy off that day. And Annette says, how is the health department not involved? Black mold, no running water, no working plumbing, etc.
I don't know because even the septic in that house runs into the creek. And you would think the health department, I mean, like years ago up in the mountains, that was common practice probably. You got to realize how isolated that area in West Virginia is where they live. And it would have been even more isolated, several decades ago. And people did run their sewer systems into the creeks. But you would think, I know that health departments have cracked down on that practice, over the years, and you would think that that would not be allowed. So I don't know why the health department hasn't done something about that.
Jesse Trent says they have no septic tank, just a tube that leads to the creek and ground. Let's Talk Cray Cray says the day BJ was there, he was only there to drop Timmy off. All that stuff happened the day before. Kelly Owen says Eric made the same comment Mark has with all he's done. He has never had a thank you. And Lo, BJ manipulates Larry. Larry manipulates Betty. Big Dog Gaming says, I don't think Betty is a scammer. It sounds like Larry has everything to do with it. Cindy Frey's a new member. Cindy gave a super chat. Florida Life in the Sun says because it's a town of 400 people and the county doesn't have the resources or money, there are many other living the same way. Oh, I didn't realize it was only like 400 people in the town.
In West Virginia, I don't know. It would be nice if there was someone in the chat that's familiar with the area and familiar with West Virginia. But in West Virginia, they're not that far from Beckley, West Virginia. And all through that area, that's coal mining country. And it's an amazing trip to go up there and just drive through that area. It is two mountains basically, and a little valley runs in the middle, and you go from small town to small town. Now, actually, with 400 people, that is a larger town in the area. But as you go on through those mountains, it is like one little town. It will have a little post office and a little store and little houses around, and you'll go 5 miles down the road, and there'll be another little town and another little town. So it's definitely an experience to ride that country, go and take a trip and go up there. And then there you get to Beckley. There is a exhibition coal mine there that you can go in, and we did that one year, and that was an experience that made me appreciate the work that those coal miners do. Definitely wouldn't want to do that. So it's a different environment there. So it's pretty isolated. And I can imagine that when those kids were coming up, it was very isolated in that area.
Denise Hayes says APS went to the house to help Eric, tell them that Eric isn't trying to take Ray, Lorraine, or Timmy away from her. I wonder how recently that was, Denise. And
That,
Kathy's a new member. And Cindy sent a super sticker.
hey, Cindy Frey.
RM Guy said Eric said that Betty is a lot smarter than people realize.
Yes, she is.
And let's talk cray cray. Larry is worried about being called out for um assaulting BJ. And Cindy sent another sticker, says love you funky and funky family. And let's see. So what do you think of those comments?
Well,
Trying
I
to
do
look for
think,
some other ones for you.
yeah, I do think that Betty is smarter than you give her credit for, but I also do think that she's easily manipulated and that she has had a hard job taking care of those family members. That's not an easy job. Plus, she pretty much had to bring Timmy up after he was born, and I believe that she actually may have kept BJ for a while. So I think she's had other family members there other than just the ones that are there now. And at one time there was a brother named Freddie, and Freddie was just as autistic as Ray. So Betty has had her hands full, but she is also uh she she's smarter than you give her credit for. I'm trying to remember the other comments. There were
Well, here's an interesting one. It says BJ Whittaker, Kenny is Timmy's real dad.
read that again.
Um, BJ Whittaker says Kenny is Timmy's real dad.
Okay, so they're saying that BJ says that, or is there someone in our
Oh,
chat name?
that's the name. The person's name, BJ Whittaker, says Kenny is Timmy's real dad.
Okay, is that BJ Whitaker from the Whitaker family that's in our chat?
That will be interesting to find out. I was
Okay,
like, when I seen that too, I'm like, huh? That
well, I mean, If it doesn't matter who Timmy's dad is, there's been a lot of speculation, I think, over the years. I don't, I wouldn't understand what BJ's doing in our chat, really, if that is BJ Whittaker from the Whittaker family.
Uh,
But uh, I don't know that. I've not heard that. I've not heard that in any official, I don't, any official statement from anyone on the videos. And like I said, the videos is what all of us are going by, because that's what we see.
Florida life in the sun. Betty parrots everything anyone says at the moment.
I think she does. I think that she will agree with who she's with, and then she will change when she's back with other people. And when she gets caught, I think she lies.
Oh, BJ Whittaker says I should know.
Why not BJ Whitaker come up on the panel and talk to us?
Funky put the link there. Kelly Owen says no, Lorraine was assaulted. They know Timmy's biological dad. Annette says that would only be known for certain through a DNA test.
Exactly.
Denise